Did you know that not only around 40% of the marriages end in divorce, that also only about half of the people that stay married describe themselves as happy? So the question is not just why do relationships fail? The maybe even more uncomfortable question is, if you are unhappy, why do you still stay? At the higher level, there are 4 types of relationships, defined by how much relationship pain you feel and whether you plan to stay or leave. If you only have a little bit of relationship pain and you still stay, you're part of the lucky few, as these are the genuinely happy relationships. If you only have a little bit of relationship pain, but you directly leave, you are simply a quitter, as you leave at the first real discomfort. If you are in a lot of relationship pain and you do leave, you can be labeled as a reality acceptor, as you see things are not sustainable and also dare to act. And now lastly, if you are in a lot of relationship pain and you still stay, you're simply a hope addict. And it's the hope addicts where most of the silent suffering is happening. I think we all know someone like this, right? Someone who always talks unhappy about his relationship, while in the same time bringing tension into their home, passing stress into their children, and slowly normalizing unhappiness. So again, if you are unhappy, why are you still staying? People don't stay in bad relationships because they are stupid. They stay because their brain is trying to protect them. Firstly, people are afraid of loss. As humans really prefer the pain they do know over the unknown, as loss hurts twice as much as a gain feels good. So while your rational mind says, leaving could only make things better, your emotional brain answers, or worse, what if you lose everything? So you stay. Secondly, people crave comfort over friction. Even when your rational mind says, I'm not happy, your survival system replies, yes, but it's stable, change costs energy, and staying costs nothing. So you stay. Thirdly, and this is the most dangerous one, your nervous system adapts. When pain lasts long enough, it stops feeling like a warning and starts feeling like normal. So while your rational mind says, this relationship is hurting me, your body whispers, I know, but leaving is dangerous. Tried it before, and look where that got us. And so you stay. Not because you're happy, but simply because pain has become familiar. And that's a sad situation. To bring this all together, almost every decision in a bad relationship comes down to 2 forces. How normal your new situation feels and how scary it feels to change. If you don't normalize a bad situation and you're not very afraid of change, you are the refuser. This is a good thing. Your inner voice is telling you, this is just not okay, and I trust myself to leave. And as such, when required, you do so. If you do normalize a bad situation, but you're not afraid of change, but you still stay, you are a couch prisoner. As your inner voice is telling you, it's not great, but it's fine. So you lower your expectations and just sit it out. If you don't normalize a bad situation, but you are very afraid of change, you are a mental prisoner. As your inner voice goes back and forth like, I know this is right, but what if I make it worse? So you think and think and think and don't move. And then lastly, if you do normalize a bad situation and you are very afraid of change, you are a silent endurer. As your inner voice is telling you, this hurts, but every relationship has problems. So you still stay. And over time, this pain starts feeling like normal, setting you up for a long and unhappy life. So, where in the matrix would you map yourself? Let me know in the comments, as awareness is usually the first step towards change. Now you might ask me how to practically apply all of this information to get a happier life. Let me use an historical example out of my own life. 4 years, I was in a relationship where both of us were not really happy. But the dangerous part, and I think many of you relate to this, was that I was not unhappy all the time. Sure, some days I felt sad and angry, especially after fights, but then there were also good moments. And life in general makes me pretty positive. So no matter what happened at home, if I would go to the gym afterwards, have a good day at work and catch up with some friends, I would just feel fine again. Until I came home and the whole cycle started over again. Looking back at this, I was a hope addict, as I was in a lot of pain and still staying. Not because things were okay, but simply because I kept hoping that things would change. Which was, if I'm now honest with myself, a hope mainly driven by fear. Fear of making the wrong decision, fear of being alone, fear of starting over, making me a mental prisoner. The only thing that kept me thriving was that I never accepted the situation as normal, as things still felt wrong. For almost 2 years, I lived with two voices in my head, where one voice said, "This isn't normal," but then the other voice answered, "Yeah, but it's better than nothing," until I realized that somehow it needed to stop. So, how to put yourself in a position where either your relationship improves or you dare to leave. You for sure don't get there by fighting your relationship itself, tempting as it might be. You get there by fixing the patterns inside of you that made this relationship feel normal in the first place. Because if you have accepted something unhealthy as that's just how relationships are, the first thing you need is a hard reset of what actually healthy looks like. And if you're deeply afraid of being alone, the first thing you need is not some kind of weird self-reassurance, it's building your self-trust. For me, the reset of what normal looks like started by changing my reference points. As I pushed myself to start looking at other healthy relationships, I started to read books and I started to talk openly about relationships with people outside my bubble. And suddenly I noticed that their relationship had much more respect and emotional safety than mine. And by just observing that, slowly, things I had learned to swallow started to feel wrong. More self-trust I built through small experiments, as I realized that words itself would not do the trick. So over the course of a given time, I was constantly trying new behavior, proving to myself that I do matter and that I can take care of myself. For example, every time I learned something new about boundaries, I used it immediately. I just said the learned sentence, even when it felt uncomfortable. And after that, two things happened. Firstly, I realized that I could say so much more than I ever thought, and that I could stand up for myself had I just made the first step. And secondly, I started learning what a healthy relationship actually feels like to me, triggering the deep realization that if every honest step forward gets a negative response, but every change you make in your life feels better than staying, then what is the risk of leaving? Let me now ask you. Have you ever stayed in a relationship out of comfort or fear? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this episode, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, as this is the best way to make the channel grow. And I just love to see you in the next one. Much love, Tom.